Good afternoon. It's 3 p.m. and I'll call to order the Board of Directors regular meeting agenda for Monday, March 18th, 2024. Item 2 will skip as all 5 directors are present. And moving on to the pledge. Director Martin, would you lead us?
Place your hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And before we proceed, I'd like to take a few moments to honor Brian Estandi, who dedicated himself to public service throughout his life, notably as the Chief of Staff to Congressman Sonny Bono and later Congressman Mary Bono. He was elected to serve in the California State Assembly in 2008, where he served until 2014, representing the Coachella Valley. Brian was a strong advocate for our region, and he will be remembered for his great leadership and his willingness to work across the aisle for the betterment of our community. Please join me in a moment of silence as we honor Brian and all of his many accomplishments. Thank you. Dory, may I have a roll call, please?
Director Meyerhoffen?
Present.
Director Duff?
Here.
Director Martin?
Here.
Vice President Griffith?
Present.
And President Sewell?
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Thank you. Item 5, rules of procedure. Counselor?
Yes, according to the rules of procedure adopted by the board, all notice meetings are conducted using Rosenberg's Rules of Order as a procedural guideline. Directors should refrain from responding directly to public comments at meetings of the board. The president of the board presides at all meetings and decides all points of order and procedure during meetings. The president is responsible for the maintenance of order and decorum at all board meetings. No person should be allowed to speak who has not first been recognized by the president. No member of the board should speak more than once upon any one subject until every other member of the board wishing to speak on the subject shall have been given an opportunity to speak. No board member shall interfere with the orderly progress of a board meeting, and the board president regulates the amount of time to be dedicated to a particular agenda item.
Thank you. Item 6, public input. This is opportunity for members of the public to address the board on matters within the board's jurisdiction. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less. State law prohibits the board from discussing or taking action on any item not listed on the agenda. Do we have any members of the public wishing to address the board?
President Sewell, we do not.
All right, thank you. Item 7, human resources report.
Thank you, President Sewell, members of the board, members of the public. Going with our new protocol, we only are recognizing the significant milestones. This month, we have no significant milestones, whether it be 5, 10, 15, but we do have certain anniversaries and promotions that was included in your packet. There are no new hires this month.
Just a thank you to those 5 anniversaries that we have. Looks like it's totaling just about 70 years of service. So happy to have all those 5 on our team. And we'll move on to item 8. The public hearing. This is for ordinance 2024-01, establishing rules and regulations for sewer service. This is a time and place fixed to solicit the public's input regarding Mission Springs Water District's establishing rules and regulations for sewer service. The public hearing will be declared open and staff will provide the reports. I will then call for comments from the public. There will be no back and forth conversation between the board and the public and staff during this time. All questions will be noted and addressed after all public comments have been received. The public hearing will then be closed and the board may discuss if necessary. I declare this public hearing open. Secretary's report, please.
Notice of public hearing was posted to the Desert Sun on March 1st and March 8th of 2024. As of this afternoon, there has been 1 comment or protest about this item.
And do we have a staff report?
Thank you, President Sewell. We do have a staff report and a presentation. Eric Weck, our engineering manager, will take this item. Eric?
Thank you, General Manager Macy. President Sewell, members of the board, good afternoon. In your agenda packet, it pertains to the sewer service rules and regulations, industrial discharges, updating Article 6. So I just want to do another presentation just to remind everybody what the updates are, what we've been doing in the background to update Article 6 and get this item to the board to adopt the revisions. So what were some of the changes? Well, one of the changes, there were about 3 or 4 significant changes. One of them was defining what industrial waste is, and that can be found in the new section 6.03 titled Industrial Waste. Likewise, we also added some clarity and a more consistent process on permitting applications and what that process is for industrial discharges. And that can be found in section 6.05, which was formerly under 6.02. The next item, and this is where we come to some significant changes in the article. So the current section is titled Prohibited Industrial Discharges, and it's the same thing, but the numbering changed to 6.04. So what really changed? Well, we lowered the state lowered total dissolved solids, and there were additional constituents added per the Colorado River Basin Regional Water Quality Control Board. And it was adopted in our waste discharge requirements. So for example, the old Article 6 spelled out an existing regulation of total dissolved solids of 400 milligrams per liter, plus the yearly average dissolved solids that is already in the water supply. So pursuant to our consumer confidence report, it shows an average water supply total dissolved solids content of 390 milligrams per liter. Therefore, the total dissolved solids limit for an industrial discharger would be the 400 plus the 390 that's already in our water supply, and that equates to 790 milligrams per liter. So 790 milligrams per liter is what an industrial discharger can safely discharge. So what's the proposed changes? Well, based on the adopted waste discharge requirements issued by the state, the Horton plant provides an interim 12-month rolling average effluent limit of the TDS of 665 milligrams per liter. There's no additional, there's nothing additional added to that. It's a flat limit of 665 milligrams per liter. The Wright Regional Water Reclamation Facility has an interim regulatory limit of 665 milligrams per liter as well, and that's been set by the Regional Water Board. Likewise, the Desert Crest treatment facility has a when that wastewater is discharged to the evaporation and percolation ponds over that contained in the water supply to the community shall not exceed 400 milligrams per liter at this time. The Consumer Confidence Report shows an average water supply TDS at 390 milligrams per liter. Therefore, the TDS limit would be 790 milligrams per liter. Going on to the next slide. And this ties into what I just spoke about. So you can see on this matrix, the old limit, which means where we're at right now before the adoption of the new Article 6. You'll see under the old limit category, the column, is that you'll see ammonia, nitrogen, and total nitrogen were not in the previous, or not in the old Article 6. Those have been added by the state. So you'll see under the new limit, not to exceed, for methylene blue active substance, that constituent limit stays the same. And we also, so the state added ammonia nitrogen at 45 milligrams per liter, as well as total nitrogen at 60 milligrams per liter. Dissolved sulfides, 5-day BOD stays the same at 250 milligrams per liter. If you look at total dissolved solids, you'll see old standard was 400 milligrams per liter plus the background, which is the background of total dissolved solids and already in our water system. The new proposed change will be to 665 milligrams per liter standard, flat. There'll be no additional allowances on that. Same thing, but with sulfate, sodium, fluoride, and chloride, those limits stay the same, and those do account for background constituents already in our water supply. And finally, the discharge of water from natural geothermal origin is not allowed, and it's prohibited to be discharged into our system. Finally, we've added a section, industrial waste discharge permit amendments. So as a industrial discharger is initially permitted, and sometimes as technology changes and their product changes, we've added verbiage to amend the conditions of facility industrial discharge permits when necessary, so that we can reflect those changes, and we can either add or delete conditions as they come up. So what have we done to lead up to this point? Well, staff has solicited comments from the public. We've proactively reached out to industrial facilities and notified them of the availability of the draft Article 6 on the MSWD website. And that was advertised in a press release. We've advertised a public hearing notice through the Desert Sun newspaper. We've notified the regional board of the industrial discharge limit changes to our Article 6. And we've also opened a discussion last Thursday on March 14th during a study session. The next step is to have a board meeting to adopt the revised ordinance. And in last Thursday's discussion, it was one of the added constituents was TKN. And we've done a little bit more digging on our end, and we're changing it. We're revising that to total nitrogen, not TKN. TKN, I believe, is a subset of total nitrogen. We've also updated some minor things in the Article 6, removed the word his and put their, and also at the request of General Manager Macy, we've eliminated the enforcement section. And because there is, I believe it's Article 10 in the sewer service ordinance that already covers the enforcement of these articles. So are there any questions?
Do we have any questions from the board? Thank you, Eric. At this time, we'll go into the public comment portion. We ask that you please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. If a speaker has made the same point before you, please minimize your repetition of the same point. There will be no back and forth conversation between the public and the board and staff. All questions raised will be addressed after the public comment period. At this time, do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on this matter?
Thank you, President Sewell. I've had a few people enter the Zoom since this item started. So if there is anybody who cares to make public comment, please unmute your microphone.
So none through the Zoom?
No, no, sir.
Okay, we have a couple here. If you'd like to approach the podium.
My name is Matt Renaud with NV5. And also in conjunction with Between the Springs, representing them also as one of their environmental engineers.
Would you pull the microphone closer to you?
Sure.
Thank you.
First comment I wanted to make is just on the TDS limitation change. Holding the industrial connections to an absolute limit of the discharge permit, that does not account for the dilution of the lower sources. So if the plant's permit number is 665, then holding all connectors to that doesn't really account for what's going to be blending in. Industrial connections will typically likely be a little bit higher than your other sources. So I want to just make sure that's really thought through, that you're servicing the connections there in the appropriate manner and managing your permitting at the plant process also upstream in conjunction together, so that we're not just holding an absolute limit that could be fairly restrictive against serving your connectors upstream. And then holding it also to an absolute limit of 665. Under the previous number, it was tied to the source number that was of the source being provided by Mission Springs Water District. If over time your water quality has any variation, that would then add to the cost of your connectors in addressing the source water, whereas before it was MSWD's number plus 400, I believe it was, where so that the operators and the connectors are not operating and costs fluctuating based off the source water from year to year. So please take that into your consideration in looking at that on both those aspects. The other part is just based off the language in 6.03, the last sentence stating no industrial wastewater shall be discharged into the public sewer, which will contribute to causing the effluent discharge from the sewage treatment plant or sewage treatment facilities to violate any discharge requirements set by the California Regional Water Control Board, is a pretty prescriptive, prohibitive statement. And where I'm going with that is there's existing infrastructure within the district's served area that will be asking and looking for considerations and how to connect and where pre-treatment facilities will be located. That saying that any connection, any water quality that enters the public sewer is a violation or will not be allowed. I'm cautioning against that, in that we need to make sure that it's available to folks to connect with facility-based treatment options that can be more creative and off-site, potentially pulling waters from the sewer line for treatment and putting them back after they've commingled in the system. So, and also redefining where the point of connection is. So I want to make sure that we're not overly prescriptive against looking at creative and unique ways of meeting the environmental compliance and the rates that are going to be charged and how treatment is adjudicated into this program.
That is your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Kenny Dickerson, Between the Springs Holdings. We have 160 acres that we actually thought was in your water district. And from the DWA lawsuit and the remap, we just noticed that we may not even be in Mission Springs Water District's map any longer. So we need some help from the board and from the water district with this entire document. When you as a board approved the Coachella specific plan, years ago in 2017, part of the considerations that you undertook, you understood that there would be blowdown tower water that would be dealt with. There would be cannabis wastewater that would need to be dealt with. There'd be domestic sewer that would need to be dealt with. And the whole purpose of our park was to be able to mix those wastes and still meet whatever standard that you set ultimately at your new plant when you ultimately built it. So we're here asking the board to please have your staff please address us and meet with us to come up with logical conclusions so that this doesn't damage every parcel that is in my park, and come up with some quality solutions to still meet the total standard that you have to meet so that you're not bucking up against your recharge permits and not able to meet the goal here, which is protect the groundwaters. We're all in it for the same reasons. So we need your help doing that. I am deeply concerned on this redistricting, what this looks like. It was just presented to me a few hours ago that we may not even be in your sustainability district. If you look at DWA's maps, they show our project in their territory right now. You show our project in your territory right now. And it looks like everything east of Kelly de los Ramos would go to you, and then everything else would be at DWA. We need to know who we're reporting to, who our board is that we're supposed to be negotiating with, because we're not getting to the final answers we need, even for assignment of infrastructure. So we would ask the board to please instruct your staff to sit down with us to work through all these issues. We went through 10 rounds of an MOU between our park, our developer, and this board, not with the board, but with your staff, that Arden Wallem at the last minute nixed after 10 rounds of draft negotiations. And we have some outstanding items on reimbursables, who gets them, when they come. The regional plant now is 4 years delayed, yet you put a 10-year time limit on our reimbursables. So we have all these outstanding issues, all of which are solvable, but because nobody from staff is sitting down with us and working through each line item one at a time, we can't seem to get anywhere in that. In this
Mr.
instance-
Dickerson, your 3 minutes has expired.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other members of the public wishing to address the board on this matter? And no additional online?
I'll give it one last. If anybody online wishes to comment on this item, please unmute your microphone. President Sewell, it doesn't appear that anybody cares to make public comment.
Right. And would staff like to comment on any of the public comments that were made today?
No.
Okay. Seeing no further speakers, I hereby declare the public hearing closed. Board discussion, do we have any questions or comments from the board? Director Martin?
None from me, thank you.
Director Meyer?
I'd just like to thank folks for showing up here to voice your opinion and let us know where you stand at. You're always welcome to send me any information that you would like. Other than that, no, I don't have anything further.
Director Duff?
Nothing further, thank you.
Vice President Griffith?
I just want to clarify, the item that we are on is regarding industrial discharges. So any of the other issues brought up are really not germane to this conversation. And so what we're focusing on is just this item in particular. If there's other concerns, you can certainly reach out, but this is the item that we are looking at, and these limits are mandated by the state. They're not just kind of pulled out. So I think that everyone just needs to think about that, is that sometimes things are put on us that we just have to put down to everybody else. And so they're not arbitrary. So just want to say that.
And just again, thank you for coming and speaking. I do hope that staff can address some of those additional issues. But as far as this item's concerned, with no further discussion, do we have a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second it.
With a motion and a second, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Meyerhoffen,
Yes.
Director Duff,
Yes.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Vice President Griffith.
Aye.
President Sewell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Moving on, item 9, Mission Springs Water District 2024 Strategic Plan Adoption. It is recommended to adopt the 2024 strategic plan. Do we have anything further from staff?
Marion Champion our Assistant General Manager is available for questions.
I just wanted to note that if you look, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me today. I did want to note that I did make a couple of red line changes in the document that addressed Director Meyerhoffen's comments on Thursday. If you look at our environmental sustainability page, I've added a couple more on the key measures that include exploring additional sludge recycling options for future reuse, created an internal employee culture that proactively seeks ways to conserve water and energy and be more environmentally sustainable in everything we do. And then another one that talks about evaluating building designs and perform a cost-benefit analysis of the impact of incorporating LEED green building standards in construction projects. And lastly, ensure all district construction projects adhere to California environmental laws and regulations. That would be on page 25 and 26 of the plan. But other than that, it is the way the rest of the plan remains the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Director Duff?
I just wanted to thank everyone, including the staff members that participated in this process along the way. I think that what I find really wonderful about this particular strategic plan is that there is so much room for continued use. This is a living document that I think is allowing staff and public and the board here to all feel the accurate sense of ownership. And that I really appreciate. I just wanted to, again, great job. Thank you for everything that you all have done. And I look forward to putting this into work.
Thank you. Vice President Griffith?
Good job. I'm glad this was done. This was quite a process and an undertaking, and it's nice to know that we kind of have a roadmap now. And so I will be watching to make sure that certain managers adhere to that.
Director Martin?
Yes, I want to congratulate staff for a lot of hard work went into this and went through a number of revisions, and I know that even garnered some interest by the public, and a couple of the meetings that I went to in Desert Valley Builders Association, the issue did come up. So, and again, anyway, congratulations to staff for completing this project.
Director Meyerhoffen?
Just Assistant Manager Champion. Thank you very much for making those changes in the environmental part. I believe that we're the one that we're already getting ready to cross off in the strategic plan is the one concerning finances. I'm glad that we brought this back. I was just about ready to ask. I was going to ask next meeting, what happened with the strategic plan? Every 3 months we were supposed to look at this so it didn't get put on the side like the last one. So I'm very happy to see that it's been about 3 months now, and be looking forward to see where we're at 3 months from today. Thank you.
And just kind of echoing all those comments, thank you to staff. When we went to our CSDA leadership conference last month, we went over strategic planning, and I really think we kind of hit this one out of the park to involve all the different departments. We really got input from not only our customers and the board, but our entire staff. So thank you again. I'm really looking forward to implementing this. I know that was a big point of contention when we started this, was we want something that can be implemented and continuous. So congratulations. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a motion and a second? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Meyerhoffen,
Yes,
Director Duff,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Yes,
Vice President Griffith.
Aye.
President Sewell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Item 10, contract amendments for construction and construction support and inspection services for the Well 42 project. It is recommended to authorize the general manager to execute contract amendments with AECom Technical Services, Envirologic Resources, and TKE Engineering for additional engineering services during construction, and with Roll Apart Buildings for additional construction support and inspection services during the construction of the Well 42 project in the amount of $113,605. Staff.
Thank you, President Sewell. We provided a update of where we were with some of the costs, some of the invoicing as requested. At this point, staff stands by to answer any additional questions offered by the board. Eric and myself are available.
Anything further, Director Martin?
nothing further.
Director Martin? Director Duff?
Thank you. I just want to, reiterate something that I had asked on Thursday, and that was the confirmation that our contractors have all of the parts that they were waiting for. And so if this is agreed upon by the board, we will not be continuing with just continuation invoices of meetings, but in fact, we will be proceeding with the actual work. Is that a correct assumption on my part?
Yes, this is Eric, the engineering manager. Yes, Director Duff. Once we get the green light on this, both Steve and I will reach out to the contractor and get them started. And within a few weeks, they should be ready to go and remobilize and start work at Well 42.
Thank you. And this is not a question, more of a comment. I reviewed the other contractors' invoices that was provided by staff on my request. And from the change order that we had last issued of, I believe it was the 105,000, a large portion of that was these continued meetings amongst all of the parties at play with TKE. And if a project is on hold, I really don't anticipate burning through that much money, and the majority of it just being conversations. Not just conversations with the other staffs and with MSWD staff, but conversations with their own staff. I understand that things get billed appropriately by job order when companies work for multiple different companies and they have various different projects. Of course, they want to log all of their necessary time with each appropriate project. However, there should be some discretion with the managers of those projects as to what actually gets translated to the contractor or the paying party. So I just ask that in future that is more considered and definitely more controlled by our staff at MSWD to ensure that we are not spending money for conversations. Thank you very much.
Vice President Griffin?
I'm a little hesitant overall on this item anyway. I've made my objections clear, but I will say, if this goes through, I can see that we're gonna burn through 8750 just by Eric contacting Mr. Ledbetter that this is moving forward. So I would urge you to keep your conversation short and not blow through so much money. If it goes through, I might say, yeah, I don't know, but I will say that I don't want to see really this come back another time, because I think we can't just keep extending and amending and spending. So I have to say.
And I'll just say a thank you to staff. I think this item's pushing just about 200 pages. And thank you to the board for your thoroughness on looking over this item. I'm looking forward to getting Well 42 online. So no further discussion. I'll open public comment. Do we have any members of the public wishing to address the board on this item?
No, President Sewell, we do not.
I'll close public comment on item 10, and with that, open up for a motion.
So moved.
I'll second. With a motion and a second, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Meyerhoffen,
No,
Director Duff,
Yes.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Vice President Griffith,
Aye.
President Sewell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Item 11, accept annual comprehensive financial report for year ended June 30th, 2023. It is recommended to review and accept the annual comprehensive financial report as presented by Rogers, Anderson, Malady, and Scott LLP. Arturo?
Thank you, President Sewell, distinguished members of the board. I have Gardenia Duran with RAMS back to provide a presentation on the 2023 annual comprehensive financial report. And I'll pass it on to Gardenia, who's going to start the presentation. I'm starting the presentation. She's going to give you the input on that presentation. Let me just share the screen. One sec.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Sean wanted to present today, but he has one of his CPA exams today, so he needs to get that done. So I will be presenting for him. So we just wanted to go back and thank you for the opportunity to do the audit of the district. We've been doing the audit for, I think this is our 4th year. And so every year we've seen lots of improvement within the organization. So we really enjoy working with management and the staff. So again, we wanted to thank Arturo and we wanted to thank Rachel. She's been a great addition to your department. And I know that you have new people, Rita, Anna M, Claudia, and Anna F. And so we were like, we have 2 Annas. I'm like, okay, well, let's use their initials. But we'd like to go over our audit objectives, the different things that we've done throughout the audit, what we do throughout the audit, and then our opinion on the audited financial statements. So this gives you a list of the things that we do throughout the audit. Every year, we do an increased understanding of the entity, so we go through everything, and we cycle the different controls that you have in order to be able to determine what it is that we need to look at year end. So we went through a lot of these points, in the last meeting. And so every year we do the same procedures with some of this, and with some of it, depending on what it is that you have that year, we might add new procedures or, based on our increase in our questions, we'll look at additional items. So going through our auditor responsibilities, our responsibilities is to review your financial statements, your notes, look at your discussion and analysis, and your letter of transmittal. We also complete a review process of all your procedures and look at the backup for all the things that you're reporting. And then we develop our opinion and give you feedback on what we've looked at as far as your internal control. Management, on the other hand, is responsible for all the information. And so, they do a very thorough review of those financial statements because we do assist in preparing. So at the end of the audit, we give our opinion. And so we're happy to report that we have issued the district an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level opinion that we can issue. And the other thing that we communicate is if we have identified any deficiencies, there are material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that need to be reported to the board. And we're happy to inform you that we don't have any such deficiencies. Every year, we do make recommendations to management based on operating, things that we might notice that might, help the district improved. And every year they go out of their way to make sure that they put more and more processes to make their internal controls better and better. That is something that we communicate in the SAS 114 letter. One of the big things that was issued this year was GASB 96, and it was just very much in line with GASB 87 with what you dealt with leases last year, but now it was dealing with your subscriptions. And so we worked along with management to make sure that all those disclosures and everything was recorded properly. And so, everything seemed to be materially stated within your statements.
And I cut you off a little bit, Garden, just for a minute. For the board's information, what the IRS and GASB standards are basically saying is you have certain leases that you have out there we have to report that we owe depending on the contract, amount. If you have a 3-year contract, that's amounts we have to report on our statement saying we owe them for 2 years, later on. In terms of the GASB 96, now we're talking about, the software that we're renting for 10 years. They consider that a lease also that we have to report on our financial statements. So just to make it more clear of the funds that are gonna have to go out the door in the next couple of years, and obviously we have to comply with all of that information.
So the biggest changes that are in the current year was your conversion of your basic financial statements to your annual comprehensive financial report. The ACFR is not a requirement, but it is a recommendation for transparency. So governmental agencies that wish to have the most transparent and clear financial statements apply for this award. So management has put a lot of effort into helping to convert this statement for you. And so what it will mean going forward is that you will also have an external group reviewing these financial statements and giving you back feedback as to how or what they think there could be improvements on the financial statements. So it is a volunteer program, which we are part of as well. And so every year they'll give you recommendations, no matter how small, to help you improve. So from there, this is big picture, your balance sheet. So one of the things that management has requested, and it's perfect timing to do, is the next year you will have comparative statements. So that way, when you receive the statements, you will be able to see the numbers side by side, and it should help you do a better review or comparison yourself as you receive the statements. On this year's statements, from the prior year, your total district's assets increased by about 57 million. And it was mostly contributed to your increase in construction in progress, the projects you have going on, and then that $30 million regional grant that you are about to receive. Your total liabilities were 19 million, and they were mostly contributed to the increase in your net pension liability, and I will discuss some of those items later. So this resulted in a net position increase of 38 million, and the district as a whole is fairly healthy. So in comparison to other districts, you are operating well. Now, if we switch over to your statement of activities, for your net income, you had an increase of approximately I cut off with the capital contributions of 2.4 million. And so you see, like, now it will put anything related to property taxes, and a big piece of that is that grant, you know, that $32 million there. And it's not normally part of your regular operating. They'll give you the funds for whatever it is that you're going to be using it, but that's the big change in the current year.
And I just wanted to remind on the board as well that those funds that are being spent on the regional grant, they are tied to that particular project. But once the state reimburses the district, it's basically unallocated funds. The district and the board can choose to allocate those funds for whatever purpose, because they're reimbursing the expense that already happened. And so that cash goes back into the overall cash for the district.
So other key matters, I think that we'll just touch base on the regional grant that you received. The other item I wanted to discuss was your unfunded pension liability. And so one of the things was, I thought that maybe I could give you a little bit of history as to how it is that this, you know, liability is calculated, and especially because of the huge shifts that you've seen in the past few years. So I pulled here, and you can see it there, but as far as what the liability was going back to 2020 up to 2023. So one of the key things to note within this net pension liability, when they first decided that the net pension liability should be reported for governments, one of the key factors that needed to be decided was what date were they going to be using for the valuations of your assets, which would be, you know, your investments, as far as like the pooled funds and how well those pooled funds were doing. The other piece was when, the measurement date. So the valuation date, they decided it would be 2 years prior to when you would be reporting it. So for example, last year in 2022, the valuation that they were using for your investments was based on 2018. I'm sorry, in 2020. I have 2020 up here. So it'd be 2 years back. The measurement date, which is taking into consideration any contributions that you've made, would be the prior year. So if, let's say in fiscal year 2023, for some reason you had made a huge contribution, you would not see that contribution actually affect your net pension liability until the following fiscal year. Where you would see it is that you would see a deferred outflow, and that's where the amount would be sitting until it actually affected your net pension liability the next year. So the biggest thing that you normally see is that in 2022 specifically was that there was a huge shift. There was a huge shift from the liability that you had the year before that was about 7.1 million, and it went down all the way down to like 3.9. And the majority of that shift was related to the valuation of the investments, which those investments, it was based on a valuation of 2020, where the investments did very well that year for everybody. So therefore, a big amount of your liability actually shifted to a deferred inflow, because there was the expectation that if at that point in time that your investments would actually bring in about $3.4 million.
Thank
So
you,
this year,
Garden. And in the past, what's happened is when looking at this number, a lot of people just don't understand how we can keep unpaid $4 million. It is not recommended that we do that for this particular reason. As investments go up and down, that number changes. What we are going to come up with is an actual policy that reviews this number and makes decisions on a regular basis going forward, so that there's no question about what the district's actually doing to review that number and to decide whether anything needs to get done or leave it as is. But at least it'll have a formal procedure that goes over what the number is and what we do about it, if anything, every single year.
yeah, so that's normally what we recommend to management, is that put a policy together, which you already are, and it would help explain those shifts that are really based on estimates as far as the fair value of investments at a point in time. So the big changes for next year would be the conversion of the ACFR to comparative statements, like I mentioned before, and so that'll help you be able to see some of these questions from side to side. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Any questions from the board? Director Martin?
I wouldn't even know where to start, but no question.
Director Meyerhoffen?
I'm kind of in agreement here with Director Martin. We hire a company to do this and we assume that it's being done correctly. And any questions we have, I'm sure they could answer. When it comes to money that was given as grant money, how far back do you go to show where that money came from? So if there was a grant issued to the district, say 3 years ago, that money would still show up in the report, correct?
It would depend on what it is that is the requirement in order to meet the requirements of the grant. So all grants are different. And so it would depend on the agreement, and it would tell you, there's even grants that you'll receive, and they will tell you, you can report salaries or expenses from past fiscal years going back 5 years. So it really depends on the grant.
Okay, so that's what they say. So my question to you now is, 3 years ago, if the district got a grant, say for $1 million, and the grant hasn't been fulfilled yet, and it's one of those grants where they don't have to answer to anybody for, where does it show up in your audit?
We would just basically look at the agreement, because it would tell you what period. So the grant actually tells you the period that it can be used. and when this information needs to be submitted and where the cutoff is. So at some point, it will give us that timeline, and that agreement will tell us if there's still time for the district to submit, what it is that they need to submit or what it is, and we would know that if it had not been submitted by a certain date and if had not met the requirements, so therefore we wouldn't expect that they would be receiving that grant. But if all the requirements are still there and it looks like they have met those requirements and they're not out of compliance with what they should be doing in order to receive it, then we are to assume that the district will receive it, especially if there's no specific requirements as to what those funds needed to be spent on.
But sometimes in government, they receive the grant before they start the work. And then they have to show later where it was.
Yes, and those grants are extremely rare. It's very rare that somebody will give you money up front.
So where would I find that information in this report?
I'm sorry, like as far as we have the receivable there for it. And so that's really what is represented as far as what the expectation is for that grant.
I think you answered my question, and if there was a grant 3 years ago, then it's in the receivable money and we won't know where it came from. The money came from originally, correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
If the district received grant money 3 years ago, and they received it up front before the work was done, that goes into the general fund.
Yes, if the district would have received the funds 3 years ago and the requirements had not been met, you would see that under unearned revenue right now. So it would be sitting on the district's books as a liability until the requirements were met.
Okay, that's what, so it's on in this report under our liabilities, the money is still sitting there.
Director, I know you're working down a hypothetical, but we have never had a grant where we got the money up front. Just for clarification.
It is extremely rare. I've never seen a district receive money up front.
I've seen it in the city a couple of times, so that's what I'm asking. Thank you.
Director Duff, any questions?
I had one, but then I was processing Director Meyer Huffman's questions and I kind of got lost, so I will have to skip for now. Thank you.
Vice President Griffith.
No questions, just a comment very nicely done. And that award, did we go for that? Did we get that?
Thank you, Vice President Griffith. After the board approves the final report is when it's considered complete and final. The auditors will stamp it with their signature, and that's when we can apply for that award.
Okay. Okay.
Because usually it'll take 3 or 4 months for a turnaround before you hear the results of it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to clarify the one question I had, and I just want to make sure that I'm understanding or that the public can understand correctly. The $32 million that she was referring to as far as the grant money coming in, that's how much we've billed so far and paid so far that we're waiting to be reimbursed on, correct?
Correct. That is through June 30th, the date of the report.
Thank you. That was the clarification I needed to make. Thank you very much.
And just a thank you from me to staff. Thank you, Garden. I really appreciate hearing the comments about how thorough and easy our staff is to work with. So thank you, Arturo, and your entire department. And with that, I'll open up public comment. Do we have any members of the public wishing to address the board on this item?
President Sewell, we do not.
Right. Close public comment and open up for a motion for item 11.
I'll move.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
And may I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Meyer Huffman,
Yes.
Director Duff,
Yes.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Vice President Griffith.
Aye.
President Sewell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Item 12, notice of acceptance of the supplemental environmental project. It is recommended to accept the supplemental environmental project as complete and authorize the release of retention money held for R.E. Chafee Construction in the amount of $19,843.85, 35 days after the filing the notice of completion. General Manager.
Thank you, President Sewell. We gave a presentation on this item during our study session on Thursday. Eric Weck, our engineering manager, and myself are available for any comments or any questions, excuse me.
Any further discussion, comments, Director Duff?
The only question or not question, but comment I still had was whether or not we've done some sort of final reach out to the 21 property owners. And I know that staff reported that staff had gone and that staff had had conversations. But I just think in transparency and in working with our ratepayers, it would be good for us to send some sort of communication that this project has come to an end and we're getting ready to finalize and close out the contract. And if you have any issues, please. Thank you.
Vice President Griffin,
Nothing,
Director Martin,
nothing.
Director Meyerhoffen?
No.
Nothing further. I'll open public comment. Any members of the public wishing to speak on item 12?
President Sewell, there is not.
Thank you. We'll close public comment. And do we have a motion and a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Meyerhoffen,
Yes.
Director Duff,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Yes,
Vice President Griffith,
Aye.
President Sewell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 13, quitclaim existing public utility easements on adjacent properties, APN 642-192-019 and 642-192-020. It is recommended to authorize the general manager to take the necessary actions to record a permanent quitclaim of the portions of the utility easements not in use by Mission Springs Water District for residential construction on real properties in the city of Desert Hot Springs, APN 642-192-019 and 642-192-020. General Manager.
Thank you, President Sewell. On Thursday, during our study session, we did provide a presentation regarding this item. We did talk about some of the locations of the easements that we're vacating. The Director of Operations came up and shared that we have gone through all the necessary processes to make sure that we would not need this area. Eric, do you have anything, our engineering manager, anything more to add?
Good afternoon, President Sewell. Thank you, General Manager Macy. No, there's nothing new to add. Staff would recommend proceeding with this quitclaim.
Anything further, Director Martin?
no, nothing further.
Director Meyerhoffen?
As long as Director Duff's questions were answered. Yeah, I'm fine, thank you.
Director Duff?
No, they answered it. In fact, Mr. Friend from Director of Operations did say that they did look at that 25-foot easement and that it won't be affected by the junction that occurs there in the backyard area. So looks like we're good. Thank you.
Vice President Griffith? Right. I have nothing further. Thank you, Eric. Open it up for public comment. Any members of the public wishing to speak on item 13?
President Sewell, there is not.
Thank you. We'll close public comment. And do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Meyerhoffen,
Yes.
Director Duff,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Yes,
Vice President Griffith.
Aye.
President Sewell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Moving on to discussion items. Item 14, Nancy Wright Regional Water Reclamation Facility update. We went over on Thursday. Did we have anything further?
Nothing further to add, President.
Anything from the board? No. We'll move on to item 15, Critical Services Center and Administrative Building update.
We also went over that item on Thursday as well and have nothing more to add to that presentation or that update.
Any discussion, comments from the board? Moving on to consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of items 16, approval of minutes, and item 17, register of demands. Did any member of the board wish to hold an item? And with that, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
yes, I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Meyerhoffen,
Yes.
Director Duff,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Yes,
Vice President Griffith,
Aye.
President Sewell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Moving on to our reports, item 18 is director's reports. I believe we all have to go today. Did anyone want to volunteer to go first?
I'll go first. Councilman.
Director Martin?
Yes, let's see. On the 1st of February at the Desert Valley Builders Association legislative meeting. There was an update by federal, state, municipal, and county representatives on a wide range of legislative and development projects and issues. Also on the first, BIA networking night, small turnout. On a kind of an important issue for me, was I had a long discussion with Brian Nastandy that night. It's the last time we saw him, and I feel very upset because I considered him a friend. And anyway, moving on to the fourth, CSDA Leadership Academy. I already reported on that. I think a number of the ones that attended already have, so I have nothing more to add on that. On the 8th of February, Desert Valley Builders Association General Membership Luncheon. The speaker was Melissa Correa, Director Center for Employment Training. It's a good presentation. On the 12th, Desert Valley Builders Association Board Meeting. The budget and balance sheet review, profit and loss, and a review of the events attended by DVBA staff and representatives. On the 21st, Urban Water Institute Conference and Board Meeting. It was prior to the conference taking place. I attended my first Urban Water Institute Board Meeting, and that was a very excellent meeting. On the Urban Water Institute, there were a number of breakout sessions or topics. One was system changes, our legal system. That was a good one. Under Science Matters, the global solution for climate change, that was also good. And then on the water communications, communicating tough messages, and I'm sure we're all accustomed to having to deal with that. All in all, it was a pretty good event. On the 10th, Palm Springs Air Museum Gala honoring military personnel with impressive aircraft on display. Those are always terrific events, and very interesting to meet some of our country's heroes. So, on the 26th Cabot Museum Board Meeting, there's nothing to report there. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Director Meyerhoffen?
Yes, thank you. I went to the BIA meeting on first of last month. And it was interesting, a lot of nice people there, and sorry to hear about the passing of the gentleman there. I went to the planning commission meeting, and I asked a developer that has been working with the district if he was pleased with the service, and he gave Eric and the rest of the staff a very nice compliment, and they were very helpful through the process. Went to another BIA meeting later on, which was also very interesting. Got some people there in development and road studies and things like that. So it was good. I also went to the Water Institute conference for the 3 days. It was different. I'm sorry that not all the directors could make it, especially the one who was telling me how important it is to get there. I also, one of those nights filled in for President Sewell here. Couldn't make it to the cannabis meeting. So I went there, and they had a very interesting presentation on the medical. It was given by two nurses, on the medical benefits of cannabis. And that's about it. Thank you.
Director Duff?
I left my notes at home, which is unusual for me, so I'm gonna have to wing this a little bit, I apologize. So on February 2nd, I did attend along with General Manager Macy an orientation with CVAG and CVCC for my new appointment there. Met with the president / general manager of the organization and was very impressed with the many ways in which they affect our valley. Was unaware of some of the things they provide for us, so it was nice learning an opportunity for me there. And on the 8th, although it was an in-person meeting, I did have to attend by Zoom because our roads were all shut down and I couldn't get there. So unfortunately, I had to attend by Zoom for my first one. I look forward to attending in a couple days in-person meeting. Then on the 26th through the 29th, I did attend Aqua DC conference that was for legislative training. This was my first time, not only in DC, but dealing with legislators on that level. So it was a very educational, eye-opening experience for me, and one that did hold quite a bit of value. I don't know if the Aqua meeting itself is what held the most amount of value for me, to be honest. But I did want to say that it was very educational, and I feel that we came home with very good news that our in-person efforts do make a difference. And they do want to hear from the elected officials so that we can communicate to the DC folks what our constituents are telling us, and that's important. Also attended on the 8th, the groundwater committee meeting. Also on the 20th, there were two. One was going over the Sigma implementation, discussing there's a lot of discussion right now in Sigma implementation regarding the actual authority GSAs hold and what their actual enforcement of said authority can and will be in the future. There was also some discussion regarding a white paper that's coming out from Sigma regarding groundwater in general. That's very interesting. And then I also attended two CVWD board meetings, and I'm still learning their new processes, and I don't have my notes in front of me, but I do know that one of them was they had to revote to continue the chromium-6 test so that they could test the actual residential lines, the pipes that go into the homes, to test the solution they may have for chromium-6 against the various different types of industrial pipes in residential homes and such. And then also kind of a resounding issue that I'm hearing on their board a lot is the increased costs of construction and making some projects not able to start because the price has gone up so much, and they're trying to figure out what to do there. So again, I think that covers everything I attended. I'm sorry I didn't have my notes to provide better detail, but thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Griffith?
I was kind of lazy in comparison to everybody. Did a DWA meeting on February 6th where they did some adjustments to their meal expense policy, and then they did a review of their 23 CIP projects. And then I did the Aqua DC conference, and there were aspects of that conference that I thought were valuable, and then there were others that I thought were maybe not so valuable. I think it was good to get out there. We did have a meeting with Laura at Carpy and Clay, and the thing she impressed upon us was that actually when we go on our own, we actually are better heard, and that they do want board members more than general managers to speak. They actually want to hear from the people who represent the people. So very good information, very, very cold while we were there. But overall, a very, very good time. And also did some other stuff in terms of when we sit around afterwards and talk about things that need to get done and where we're headed. So overall, very valuable experience. And that was it for my month.
Thank you. I just have two. The first is February 4th through 7th, CSDA Leadership Academy. We've already somewhat talked about it, but for me, it just really reinforced a lot of the current projects and things that we have going. I think we were one of the few districts there that really kind of checked all the boxes as far as recommendations from them, from their various presentations. So thank you again to our staff. I'm also looking forward now, going through the academy, that I'm eligible to receive the Special District Governance Certificate. So hopefully that'll be this fall. February 21st, I attended the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce Evening Mixer. It was held at Agua Caliente Casino, Cathedral City, and it was actually more of a fundraiser and awards ceremony. Many businesses and individuals were honored who helped Cathedral City residents who were affected by Tropical Storm Hillary. So it was, I think, a lot better attended than maybe some of the normal mixers. And there were many public officials there giving out awards and speaking up regarding the storm. But overall, a great event. And that is all I have. And we will move on to General Manager's Report, item 19. And I believe we have a few to go over today.
Yes, thank you, President Sewell. The first report we'll be going over will be the finance report. If there's anything to add to what was in the General Manager's report, as well as the audit that we just saw?
We did have the discussion for the information that's in there for you to review. If there's any questions, to let me know. I do wanted to point out that on the capital projects, they were split into 4 different projects. So you can have a better review of what's pending, what's ongoing, what has been paused and what has not been started, and what has been completed. So those are the new reports that you'll be able to see there. And again, if there's any questions, let me know. We are going to start tying those to actual contracts going forward. And that's going to start here now with the new position that the district just implemented with a contracts specialist. But otherwise, that would conclude the financial report. Thank you.
Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Director Martin? No. Director Meyer? Director Duff?
Just once again, great job. The transparency that you're providing in these new reports and the clarity that you're providing us is why my questions are less and less. So thank you very much.
Vice President Griffith? Thank you, Arturo.
Second, I would ask our Assistant General Manager to come up and give the Public Affairs report. Mary?
Thank you. Good afternoon, board. I have prepared a quick PowerPoint for you that details some of the activities of the Public Affairs Department in the past month. As always, additional information is available in your packet. Slide 2 in the chats. So once this slide comes up, you'll see in the past month was really packed with events and activities, including student-focused activities such as the DHS Little League opening ceremonies and the Coachella Valley Kid Win competition, which was held at Desert Hot Springs High School. We also presented at several events, including the CV Water Counts Academy, the DHS Noon Rotary, and the Healing Waters Mobile Home Park. In addition to all of this, we also hosted a water talk that featured Aqua's Nick Blair, who discussed fleet electrification. Also a CV Water Counts tour of the new Nancy Wright Regional Water Reclamation Facility. And we held a very successful MSWD live stream blood drive, which garnered more than 18 pints of blood, which will be used to help save the lives of more than 54 individuals. Next slide. Next month, our events calendar is just as busy. In addition to participating in a career day at Julius Orsini School next week, the Public Affairs team will be hosting another Water Talks presentation on March 27th, which will feature the site's reservoir project manager, Jerry Brown, who will discuss the project's status, capacity, and participants. The proposed offline storage facility will enable California to capture some of the water currently going out to sea during the extreme rain events we have witnessed over the past several years. Through our state water project contractor, MSWD customers will be participants in this project. I also wanted to point out the Senior Inspiration Awards on March 28th. MSWD has learned that Linda Carlson who is also a longtime DHS resident and elementary school teacher, who also is the president and instrumental for the new DHS library and the Friends of the Library. She will be our Desert Hot Springs Award recipient. Anyone who knows Linda knows that she's a force of nature in our community, and we are looking forward to celebrating her at the event. I also wanted to, next slide. I also wanted to flag a special event taking place on April 20th at Cabot's Museum. Some of you may remember that MSWD typically sponsors an Earth Day celebration at the museum on Earth Day. This year, we're coupling this event with the unveiling of a 3D modeling project that the Desert Hot Springs Real Academy students have been working on. Earlier in the school year, I met with the students and gave them an overview of our water sources for the Mission Creek Subbasin. The students are working on to create a 3D printed model that includes the mountains in Mission Creek Preserve, our MSWD reclamation facilities, the Colorado River Aqueduct and our recharge ponds, and of course, Miracle Hill and Cabot's Pueblo Museum. After my initial sit down with the students, they've been visiting each of these locations, taking photos and doing research and gathering drone footage. Last week, Irene Rodriguez from the Cabot's Pueblo Museum and the two of us visited the students to see their progress and answer any outstanding questions. We had a great meeting and I'm really looking forward to seeing their final product. Right now, all of their drawings are out on paper, so it'll be interesting to see how they can translate what they've got on paper into that 3D model. In the past month, the public affairs team has also received several cards and thank yous for their participation in the community. These includes thanks from Leadership Coachella Valley, the American Outreach Foundation, and the Bridge to Better, which focuses on helping people experiencing homelessness within our community. We also helped more than 65 third grade students from Cabot Yurtza Elementary take a field trip to Mission Creek Preserve to learn about the water cycle and how it impacts our water source. One of the students summed it up best when he said, "Today is the best day ever." I'd like to thank the teachers and the chaperones who made the trip possible, and we have additional field trips planned for later this spring. In February, our Water Matters newsletter featured information on imposter utility workers, our recent Corbs Awards, and the LIWAP program. This month's newsletter features spring conservation tips, a nod to Groundwater Awareness Month, and a photo and brief construction update on the Nancy Wright Regional Water Reclamation Facility. As some of you may have read, the State Water Resources Control Board released new proposed guidelines for conservation as a way of life regulations last week. The first of its kind regulation is intended to help the state confront chronic water shortages as climate change makes for hotter, drier weather. The initial draft of the regulation released last year was widely criticized for asking roughly 400 cities and water agencies to cut back too much and too quickly. The cost of compliance was also a very big concern. Acknowledging this burden, the revised rules will allow some communities to use more water than originally planned and extend the deadlines for meeting the conservation mandates. We are still reviewing the new proposed language. However, some of the biggest changes include: 1, a delay and ramp down of the outdoor standards, giving water districts more time to meet the objectives. 2, an extension for the irrigable lands allowance through 2027 until new land data can be collected. 3, delaying the compliance period to 2027, although we will be continuing to submit annual reporting. And 4, an alternative compliance pathway for districts such as ours, which have very drastic cuts to make. The alternative pathway would also allow us to reduce the required savings to 1% per year, so long as we have a plan in place for meeting the full requirement. In addition, there are a few other items, including some changes to the variances, allowing more options and flexibility, and some guidance on how often we will have to recertify. We're currently reviewing and looking at the calculator to see the true impacts of this, but we are definitely encouraged by what we're seeing. Or I should say, we're encouraged, but we're still looking at it all. On March 20th, the state is holding a public hearing to discuss the changes, and comment letters are due March 27th. We will have additional updates for the board as we move forward. And lastly, continuing with the theme of our spring, I have an update of our spring conservation video that I'd like to show you.
Spring offers an opportunity for many of us to enjoy the outdoors. It's also the best time of year to replace grass with desert-friendly landscaping. Besides reducing water use, desert landscaping can be a beautiful update to any outdoor space. Not sure where to start? Mission Springs Water District offers helpful tips and planning information on its website. MSWD.org, a demonstration garden adjacent to the MSWD offices on 2nd Street shows plant options to inspire landscaping ideas. The garden is dedicated in honor of Mary Gibson, who served on the MSWD board for almost 25 years. MSWD also helps cover the cost of these projects, with incentives available for people who want to remove their turf and put in desert landscaping. By starting now, plants have time to get established before the summer heat arrives, so you can sit back and relax instead of cutting grass. To learn more about turf conversions, rebates, and outdoor water saving tips, visit mswd.org.
And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments, Director Martin?
That's good work as usual. Really appreciate it. Not only do you make the water district look good, but you make all our board members here look good too. So we really appreciate it.
Director Meyerhoffen? Director Dunn?
I think the words you were looking for was cautiously optimistic.
That is exactly what I was looking for. Thank you.
Again, great job. Thank you for the information.
Vice President Griffin?
I think what helps the board members look better was that mask that you were wearing.
I was afraid somebody was going to bring that up.
Great job.
I never thought I would be a Zorro and something like that, but it's terrible. Next time I go to an event, I'm going to take a camera away from you. So.
Definitely.
Thank you, Marion.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
And is that all for General Manager's report?
That is President Sewell.
Okay, thank you. Oh, yes. Yes.
I'm sorry, I just had one question that we didn't really touch on Thursday or today. There was notification on page 9 of the general manager's report about some damage that our corporate yard gate experienced. And a fire hydrant from a traffic accident. I was just wondering if our insurance is handling those claims or if there were any update you can provide on whether they're fixed already, what was the traffic incident that caused it, et cetera.
Danny can add to some of that. I know that the gate itself, we had a vendor that caught the side of the gate and caused a lot of damage, and we've been working with that vendor to pay for those costs. The fire hydrant, though, I'm not familiar with.
Good afternoon, President Sewell, members of the board. The fire hydrant, I don't know whether we, I do know that when the accident happened, we happened to have Jeff Nutter just around the corner, so it didn't leak that far along, but we do typically collect all the information. I only say that because I'm not sure if they were uninsured or anything like that, so I can get that information and email the board later.
But the yard gate, we are working with the vendor to get that fixed.
We had a delivery truck that unfortunately took it out. And with most issues like that, what we do is we open up a reimbursable job number and we would work with their insurance company so that we can get reimbursed.
Perfect. That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you very much.
And any other questions or comments on the general manager report itself? Thank you. Moving on to item 20, district council comments.
Yes, we'll have a closed session today. Conference with legal counsel regarding pending litigation. And that's one case, Mission Springs Water District versus DWA.
Thank you. Item 21, director comments and also requests for future agenda items. Director Duff.
I'm going to keep my comments very short. I just wanted to extend a congratulations on behalf of our board to Councilmember Jan Pye, who received an award recently for most influential woman in the Valley or in Riverside County. And I just wanted to extend our congratulations for that honor. And as a woman, I just wanted to tell her to keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Griffin.
Yeah. Couple things. One, we did go to DC. We did go to Aqua. We did meet with what's it called? A federal advocate. And luckily, right, I think the day we got home, the budget was passed, and so we are headed out back then for a 2025 fiscal year budget request with our hands out. So I want to congratulate the attendees of CSDA's Leadership Academy, to President Sewell and Director Martin, who both did it before, but at my urging, caved and went and did it again. And I really appreciate you doing that. I know that Marion also did, and I'm hoping that in April, Rector Meyer Hoffman will go. This gives everybody up here an opportunity to get their certificate in special governance, which I think is very, very important. And so it'd be nice for all 5 of us to have that. So I'm hoping that Rector Meyer Hoffman will go in April. It is in San Diego, and I believe that General Manager Macy has offered to provide transportation.
Yes, I will be attending that event. So more.
So I thank you for doing that. It really means a lot to me. I think it means a lot to the district overall, but really that the fact that you understood why I wanted you to go. So I appreciate you doing that. So
And
that's
the
all I
next,
have.
the next step is what? What is the next certificate down?
Certificate of Special District Governance.
And where's that taking place?
Oh, well, wherever you would like. So if you want, I can get the particulars and.
I'll find out where it is and when it is. So
It's, you have to do some continuing education stuff. And so I'll go over that. with you.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you. Director Martin, any comments?
Yeah, if anybody is interested, I believe the funeral for Brian the Standy is tomorrow. I believe at Sacred Hearts Catholic Church in Palm Desert. I can't recall the time. I've got it on my calendar, but I didn't bring the calendar with me. So I'm sure there'll be a significant turnout because he was well liked throughout the valley. So if you're going to go early. I think it's still at 11 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken. That's all.
Thank you. Director Meyerhoff?
Yes. I guess Vice President Griffith's the last one to hear, but I'll be taking that training online. The other, now that I'm thinking about it, I sent an email. Somehow I got volunteered to be on the committee for agriculture. And I sent an email, so I didn't want to do it. And apparently I'm still signed up for that. So if we could look into that and get me unsigned so I don't show. And if I'm not there, they understand why. The demonstration garden, we saw a nice picture of here earlier. Considered to be open space. No picnic table, no seat, but that's okay because that's what open space sometimes is. Out in the meadow or the forest somewhere, that's open space, or along the river is open space, out there in the desert's open space. So what we talk about when we say open space, it's just an area the government or whoever's building. The government does require so much open space, but whoever's building leaves that open space so people can either look in there and walk around it or sit in it and have a picnic. So when we hear open space on another project, and I'm bringing this up because somebody did mention it to me, it seemed like I was being contradictory. But over at the, just because there's not a picnic table there for somebody to eat, or open space for the future for our employees in the future in another building, doesn't actually mean that there is a place there with a picnic table or seating. So anyways, I also have requested for some changes over there in the demonstration garden. And it hasn't happened. I believe that change I asked for was that because there was some vandalism in there about 5 months ago or so, that a gate be put up across the front of it and a picnic table be put in for the employees. That's a nice area for the employees to use if they want to go outside and eat. So the employees won't hear me sitting up here saying, thank you for all your hard work. I'm old school, but I always just talk to say thank you to the employer for your paycheck. Oh, if you want to hear thank you from me, it'll be a picnic table out there, other things that I think you might need. But I do appreciate your hard work, and I know that your heart's into it. You're here for that hard work. And I appreciate that we've had good hires here that are working so hard. Well, other than that, thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to give another thank you to Marion, or congratulations to Marion on her Assistant General Manager position. And I know it was brought up by Vice President Griffith. I think it's already kind of scheduled for next board meeting, but I'm looking forward to the discussion on our organizational chart and some possible rearranging and new positions, and looking forward for that for next month. And with that, we will head into closed session.
Which are gonna be here.
Right, we reconvene from closed session. Counselor, could you report out?
Yes, the board met in closed session conference with legal counsel regarding pending litigation, and that involved one case, Mission Springs Water District versus Desert Water Agency. There was no reportable action taken.
Thank you. And with that, meeting is adjourned.